so you have to be extremely careful in what you say and not drawing conclusions, and absolutely not being snarky in your presentation. Oftentimes we think when we speak, people can understand what we're saying with the inflection of our voice, but when you write, it does not come across that way. It falls flat, and it does get used against you. And it's just like any time you send an email and you think you're being funny and the other side doesn't see it that way. The Facebook Live thing is fraught with peril for lawyers. I hate to say, sort of be as benign as you can be, but that's really the best approach when it comes to engaging in that setting.
The side, that's good advice to start with, but is there maybe a game plan that a reporter ought to sit down with and even talk to you ahead of time with, to say, all right, I'm going to talk about this story, I'm going to look at questions that come in from our Facebook, fans, and which should I respond to? What should I stay away from? That kind of thing.
It's asking if Tegna has a policy.
Yeah, we're actually looking at Facebook Live right now, and one of the things, so just big picture things too, you have to be aware of are use and rights issues with networks, and making sure that if you put something on Facebook Live, like footage that you get from a network or your network or another one of your affiliates, you want to make sure you're not violating any of your agreements with those and make sure that you're permitted to use footage, for example, on social media platforms like that. So that's an issue. It also comes up with helicopters. A lot of stations now have helicopter sharing agreements and have specific provisions in their agreements about when and where they can use that footage. And so before you use Facebook Live, shooting live helicopter footage of the chase on I-10, you want to be sure that you're not, running across any usage issues in your agreement with vis-a-vis your other stations.
But I'm talking about, though, I've got a big investigation coming up on lead poisoning in my community, and we've done all this testing, and we've talked to the water company, we've talked to schools, we've got all these multiple players in there, and any number of them could be litigious if we don't get it right. What do you do in terms of advising a reporter who is being asked to sit down in front of a live camera on Facebook for 10, 15, 20 minutes, answering questions about something that maybe has aired already, or maybe hasn't aired yet and you're previewing it? I mean, what's the... Give me all your thoughts on that.
I don't think it would hurt to sit down with your lawyer beforehand and get some sort of do's and don'ts, because you're probably not mostly thinking about legal issues, you're thinking about a million other issues, and just to kind of be reminded of the basics. And I mean, some of the basics are attribute what you say. There should be very little that you say that's like your opinion. It should almost always be corroborated by someone else, and then it's important to attribute it to, according to according to the EPA, according to the Sewage and Water Board, according to the school board, that kind of thing, or according to a lawsuit by so-and-so against so-and-so. Even have props with you. Here's the petition and the lawsuit, here's the notice by the EPA, that kind of thing. So most of the time, if you really stick with attributing things to other people and stay, out of the realm of, what you think or what your opinion is, even when a viewer might press you on this, well, do you think this is a scam? I mean, do you think this is horrible? To try to stay away from, personally your own views.
Yeah, and I think all the usual rules of defamation apply. Anything you say on any platform, you and your station can be held responsible for. So, I would, as Mary Ellen says, rely on your public records as much as you can, as long as you can fairly and accurately summarize those documents, official records, official proceedings, what have you. In most states, except apparently Minnesota lately, you will have a privilege to report what's in those documents. So the more you can stick to official records and report the contents of those, you're in good shape. I will add too, and I think somebody touched on this, avoid using conclusory language or drawing conclusions from the facts that are in those records. It's the old journalism adage, show, don't tell. Report exactly what those documents say. what the investigation found, the facts of the investigation, or if you're doing a consumer story, report the specific things that happen, or facts that the consumer has alleged, without alleging that it was a scam or a con job, or sort of using a concluding statement to characterize what happened rather than just report exactly what the facts
I
are.
want to add a couple of things in terms, I think it really matters whether this main story is already run or is not already run. If it's already run, then one rule of thumb is to, reread the story, a couple of times to remind yourself what's in it. And then mostly what you say should be kind of regurgitating what's in it. Because, the people who are on Facebook Live probably or may not have seen it. So it's, it's going to be news to them. And you're pretty safe to stick to what has already been vetted. Now, if it's something that has not run yet, that's a little scarier because maybe nothing has been vetted or a little has been vetted and you don't know exactly what's going to happen in the next few days, to maybe even change the story. So don't be afraid to say, stay tuned for Friday night because our investigation is continuing. We're not, we don't, I would rather not answer that yet or that kind of thing. You don't necessarily want to say that I don't have all the evidence yet because on Friday night you might not have any more evidence, but then you go with it anyway, So, but you do, but I don't think, but beforehand, it probably is good for both marketing and for, legally to not, play all your cards.
And I'll just add to what Chris was saying as well, and what Mary Ellen was saying. The rules of defamation still apply, and I think people don't necessarily understand that. They feel like whenever you're dealing with sort of the immediacy of getting the word out, that your viewing public is going to be more forgiving if you get it wrong. And the reality is, oftentimes people do issue corrections very quickly after they have put something out on social media, and that has become commonplace. It does not mean that the initial publication cannot be considered defamatory and can't land you in court. So the urge to get something out immediately should not overcome the need for accuracy. And the medium does not give you any pass on existing traditional defamation laws.
And all the reporters and producers in the room were going, boy, good thing we've got some of our managers here today. So, why don't we just talk about when you get a script in front of you,